All right, we are going to get started. So today we are talking about the savanna biome. Does everyone have this first worksheet? Or first I'll go over what our class is going to be. So today we're talking about the savanna biome. Like I said, we're going to talk about how they're created and where they exist and what it's like there. And also talk about some of the animals you can find there, which a lot of really cool animals that you guys will definitely recognize. And then we have an animal component. We're actually going to be looking at a skull of something that doesn't live in the savanna, but has some relatives that do, and some other animals that are similar to it in ways. And then we're going to talk a lot about those animals, and then we are going to do our lion craft. So for the lion craft, you should have gotten a paper plate, googly eyes, and a black pom-pom. Yes, in that paper bag. And then you might also need to get from home some glue and a black pen and some yellow, orange, or red markers, or you can really use any color markers that you want because it's your lion and your lion could have purple hair if you want. All right, but we'll get started. So this is a picture of a savanna biome. What do you think might live in a savanna? Does it make you think of any certain type of animals or a certain movie maybe? Liza? Oh, you're still on mute.
It makes me think of cheetahs.
Cheetahs, yes. Evelyn, you have one?
Hippos.
Hippos, yes. They can live near a savanna. A lot of cool animals live in the savanna. I also think it might make you think of the movie Lion King if you've seen it, because they run through savanna at some parts. Evelyn, is that a hand or maybe not? Never mind. You're on mute, so I don't know. But a lot of cool animals live there, and we'll get to that, but we can talk about what exactly a savanna is first for a little bit. So a savanna, as you can see, has tons of grass, right? And there are some trees there, but not a lot, not like the forest outside of our house, right? Or like tropical rainforests, where what we talked about last week. Not at all compared to that. And that actually is the biggest difference between a savanna and a grassland. So what do you think a grassland might have more of than a savanna, Eliza?
Grass.
Right on the money. Savannas are mostly grass, but they have a few trees here and there, which is important because that affects a lot about the soil health and what other plants can grow there, and also what types of animals you might find there. So do you guys know what like a giraffe eats? Yeah, Evelyn?
Leaves.
Yes, they eat leaves a lot, and they have their long necks so they can eat them off trees. So giraffes might live in a savanna, but they probably couldn't live. Oh my gosh, was that planned? No. Well, then you must like giraffes. So giraffes can live in a savanna, but they might not be able to live in a grassland if there aren't enough trees for them to get the leaves from. So that's a big difference. So savannas can be a little bit different depending on where they are, but at all times they have to have a dry and a wet season. So they're warm all year round, but they're different from like a desert because they actually do have a wet season. And that's when it rains a ton. And that's normally the summer when we're talking about African savannas at least. And so water can sometimes build up because the land's not used to having water. And so it sometimes can't absorb it all. And that affects what types of plants and animals want to live there too. And what else? So it's warm all year round, but it can be super dry sometimes and super rainy other times. But they can exist in lots of different places. So when we look down here, this is a map of the world, and we see where savannas are in the yellow. Does anyone know what this continent is? This big one that is a lot of yellow. It's okay if you don't. But I'll give you one hint. It is where a lot of these types of animals live. Does anyone know where a lion lives? Or elephants? Some types of elephants? Eliza?
Lions live in the savannah?
Yes, they do live in a savanna sometimes, but I was talking about the continent. But that's a good point anyways, because this continent is Africa. So I'll let you guys know that one. And a crazy fact, around half of Africa, which is this whole continent, that's tons of countries within this continent. Around half of Africa is actually the savanna biome. So that's a lot, because when you think of the US is actually just one country, and Africa is made up of lots of countries that are in the savanna biome. But it's not the only place where it exists. The other place that you will find savannas most likely is South America, but you can also find them in Australia and a little bit scattered other places. Mostly though, it's those three, and number one is Africa, because half of the continent is savanna. But there's a good portion in South America too. And so those can differ a little bit, but no matter what, it's going to be a lot of grass, a little bit of trees, warm all year round, and a dry and rainy season. So flipping to this page, we can talk about some of the animals that exist there. So another cool fact about Africa's savannas, not only is it the number one place for savannas, but you can find the most biodiversity of all savannas in Africa. So we talked about biodiversity last class. Does anyone remember what it means? It's okay if not, because it's a pretty big word, but when you break it down, it just means lots of different living things. So we talked about it last class because tropical rainforests are home to the highest number of different living things, even though they don't make up that much of the earth. And now we're talking about it because Africa has the highest biodiversity of animals within their savannas compared to other savannas. That's all. So it just means that their savannas have tons of different types of animals and plants and bugs compared to other savannas. So what are some that you see or that you don't see in here that you think live in a savanna? We talked about hippos, I think. Talked about cheetahs, giraffes. Elephants are a big one. Elephants are important because they can actually create a savanna. Savannas don't have to necessarily be natural. They could be created by animals or humans, sometimes accidentally, sometimes on purpose, I guess. But elephants can create a savanna because they can literally go into a forest and strip the bark off the trees, killing the trees, or trample the trees so that the trees die because they're just that massive, the elephants, I mean. And so the trees die and it ends up resulting in just grassland and the trees can't grow back. So it creates a savanna, which is pretty crazy. And that can occur when the other components are already there, like how there's a dry and wet season and a warm climate. Pretty crazy. And it's important to know that there's kind of three main statuses when you live in a savanna. And so that could be a producer, a primary consumer, or a secondary consumer. So a producer would just be like a plant because they are the main food source. They're the first food source for all animals. And so they're the producer. But then a primary consumer would be one of those animals that likes to eat plants. So what do you think? What's an example of someone that likes to eat plants? So not a meat eater on this page. Who do you think? Do horses eat plants? They eat grass? What's similar to a horse on this picture that might also eat grass? I think Evelyn had her hand up first. So Evelyn, what do you think?
Zebra.
Yes, zebras. Zebras are a great example of a primary consumer because they eat grass and they don't eat meat. What do you think a secondary consumer might be? Eliza?
An elephant or giraffe?
No, but I could see why you might think that because they are a consumer as well, but they are another primary consumer because they eat plants too. But a secondary consumer is someone that is second, so they eat what eats the producer. So they eat the primary consumer, aka they eat meat, other animals. So what do you think hunts for other animals? Eliza? You're on mute, sorry. There you go.
Cheetahs and maybe hyenas.
Yes, both of them. Evelyn, have anything to add? There's lots of them.
Definitely lions.
Yes, all three of those are perfect examples. They hunt. And so actually that brings us to our animal component because here is our skull that we have.
I'm aware of these questions.
Ooh. You guys know what this might be? Eliza, you're already not on mute, so.
Maybe a buck?
Yes, yes. So this type of deer doesn't necessarily live in a savanna, but there are relatives of deer, like marsh deer, that live in South American savannas. Yeah, Evelyn?
Gazelles.
And gazelles are really similar too, and like antelopes. Yes, great addition. And so what do you think a deer is when we talk about primary and secondary consumers? Evelyn?
It eats plants.
It eats plants, so it is a primary consumer, yes. So that's important because that actually, we can tell it eats plants from its teeth. What type of teeth does like a cheetah or a lion have? Eliza?
Very, very sharp teeth.
Yes, they have sharp incisors normally right there. But these guys have teeth kind of like our back molars. They're really good for grinding up plants so that then they can digest them. And so that's going to be common for a lot of these primary consumers like zebras or giraffes or gazelles or anything like that. Which is pretty cool that you could actually look at the teeth and know what they eat. And it's same for humans too. Even though we can eat meat and plants, but we have teeth that are really good at grinding up plants. And then we have utensils also that can help us shred up the meat, right? So that we can chew it better. So pretty cool. what other things would a primary consumer might have to be in the savannah if there's, say, cheetahs around that might want to eat you? Maybe you need to be able to run really fast or camouflage well, because there's not a lot of places to hide, right? If it's just grass around, can't really hide behind trees. So I think deer are pretty fast, maybe not as fast as a cheetah, but gazelles are known for being really fast too. Pretty cool. All right, it's actually, I'm just realizing it's 5:06, so we should get to our craft and I can talk a little bit more about savannas as we're working. Oh, last question. What do you think some primary consumers like a zebra might have to do during the dry season of the savanna? If they eat plants and plants need water, do you think they go looking for water? Eliza?
Plants have water in them, so they might not have to drink as much water because plants have water in them.
That's a good point. Yeah, it might depend. But sometimes they have to walk long distances and find water sources or hang out around like a water storage, like if there's a big lake or something like that.
Can I come in?
I'm just teaching a class, sorry.
I need to grab some.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, we have a visitor. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the craft. So, as you guys know, we are making the lion masks or faces. So because time is precious, we're gonna start by gluing on the googly eyes and your pom-pom nose. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm just gonna glue my eyes on. And if you feel like drawing it all, you can do that instead, whatever you want to do. So, what else about savannas? I think they're so pretty. But it is sad sometimes if they're human-made because it can sometimes mean that we hurt the soil a little bit, but a lot of animals live in them, so it can be okay. Okay, I've got my eyes on and my nose on. Ooh, I like the drawn eyes, eyelashes. Here's what mine looks like so far. And then whether you're drawing or you're gluing, you can go ahead and start coloring. So I'm gonna color in the face yellow, but my marker is a little bit dry. So I might end up doing orange instead. And I'm gonna draw on my mouth with some black marker, I think. Do you guys like lions or cheetahs better? Cheetahs? I read your lips. Cheetahs are sleek and beautiful, and they are so fast. But lions are very beautiful too. Evelyn, do you like lions or cheetahs better?
Yes.
Ooh, both like cheetahs better. Yeah, I see that cheetah. He's cute. They have really beautiful spots, right? Very cool. All right, I'm kind of getting creative with my coloring in. I'm not really sticking to a picture. Eeh. Ooh, love it so far. And you included the fangs. I like that you're making it your own. You're inspiring me. I'm gonna do a little tongue. Do either of you guys have a cat at home? Both you do?
I have two.
Ew.
I also have two.
Whoa, that's cool. All in the same family as cheetahs and lions, right? My fun fact, guys, about myself is that my family once had 9 cats. Isn't that crazy? Not really on purpose, though. One of our cats was pregnant and we didn't know. And she had 6 kittens, and we already had 3 outdoor cats. We had to give the kittens away, which was sad. So we only had 9 cats for like 2 months probably. But it's a shocking number, so it's a good one to tell people. The kittens were really cute. All right, I'm moving on, and I'm gonna color in my mane. You guys know what the mane is? Yes. Beautiful, beautiful mane. I'm doing orange, but you can do whatever colors you want. All right. Just because we don't have too much time left, I'm just gonna show you the last step. That is, oh, my nose fell off. I'm just gonna draw one on after. The last step is to cut into this so you can kind of create more hair look, but it's completely optional. Do it if you want. Ooh, ooh, ooh. All right, here's my finished product. We are just at time. So you guys can keep working on yours as long as you want. Ooh, loving it. Loving it. Beautiful. Loving the mane. That's a wild mane. But we're at time. So do you guys have any last questions before we wrap up? All right, I'm going to take that as a no. Oh, I like that version too. Nice, Audrey. The eye just fell off. You can glue it back on though. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for letting me join. I hope you have a fun rest of your night.